Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of FRA Radio. Today I'm joined by Harriet. She founded the brand Hazaar'S and we're going to talk to her all about building a business, what it was like running a business. So for students who are wanting to start something similar, you are definitely going to enjoy this episode. It's worth me mentioning as well that this is our last episode before Christmas. So we will not be uploading for the next 2 weeks, but you will expect to see us again sometime in January. So let's get started with the episode. So please introduce yourself, what you do, who you are, what your company is all about.
So I'm Harriet. I'm the founder of a company called Hazaar'S. So we're on a mission to make conscious consumption accessible to all of the students in the UK. It's a company that I started while I was in my second year studying at the University of Birmingham. It was all about the fact that I found sustainable options really inaccessible as a student. So what we're trying to do is marry up items that students want and love, sustainability, and affordable options for students.
So what did you study at university? Have you always had an interest in fashion?
So I studied economics at university, which is quite interesting. I didn't really like the course that I was doing. It was the only course, it was the only economics course that didn't need A-level maths. And because I hadn't done A-level maths, it was like the only option for me, which in hindsight I probably should have taken as a sign not to study it because it was just not the right course for me. So I suppose I was kind of looking for kind of different like sources of inspiration because my course wasn't really doing it for me.
Which very kind of academic as well, I can imagine, not very creative.
Yeah, very, very academic.
So you did the course. Did you finish your course?
So I finished the course. And then I think it was during my second year was probably when I realised that it probably wasn't for me. And I started listening at the time to Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO podcast. And I just thought, like this really does like resonate. And the kind of the things that he was talking about, I was like, okay, this sounds a lot more like me. And actually the finance route that I kind of thought was going to be my path just probably wasn't for me.
Was there any episodes of his podcast that like really stood out to you? Can you remember any of them?
I think it was before he used to have guests on.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of when I found it better, when it was more like him just talking about his feelings and stuff. And like just the more entrepreneurial, like the vibe that he was giving off just really kind of resonated with how I kind of felt. And I remember feeling like I was quite different to a lot of people on my economics course. And actually his podcast made me think that actually the way I was thinking, other people felt like that. And perhaps it just meant that I needed a bit of a change of direction to kind of the economics route. So what I used to do is I was a bit of a keynote on LinkedIn. So whenever he'd have guests on, I used to just like message a lot of the guests and ask for internships. So I remember he had someone from Huel on, people from Grenade, some of these amazing kind of massive startups. And I'd just kind of connect with them on LinkedIn, trying to find out a bit more about what they do, ask for internships. And then the kind of the reason Hazaar'S ended up starting was because me and my friend set up a plastic-free society when we were at uni, just because we were just interested in kind of reducing plastic on campus. And I think, again, that kind of gave me something a bit more exciting and creative to kind of focus on. And then Hazaar'S ended up actually starting because we noticed that a lot of students were always Amazon priming things that they could actually get from other students.
Okay.
So we were like, actually, if we can connect students and they can buy and sell from each other, it's obviously great for sustainability and also helping with affordability.
Definitely. So you graduated and you jumped straight into Hazaar'S.
Yeah.
So have you had any employment history at other companies? Did you manage to get any internships through Stephen Bartlett's podcast?
Yeah. So I didn't manage to get any internships directly from of any of the guests on the podcast, but I did do a lot of internships. So I think during my first year at university, I did an internship for a startup based in Leamington. That was quite an interesting experience.
But they weren't necessarily like fashion based. So like for our students here, obviously they all love fashion. They technically go and do like fashion based work placements, but you didn't, but you still sort of ended up taking that route, didn't you?
Yeah. So I suppose like the route to Hazaar'S for me was the main driver for what we're doing wasn't like a massic interest in fashion as such. It was more around kind of sustainability, affordability, and opportunity creation. So something that I'm really passionate about is like breaking down barriers to opportunities for students. So in the form of like through Hazaar helping them kind of earn money, save money, access products they wouldn't otherwise be able to get. We offer a lot of like student employment roles. So for me, it was kind of a lot of my motivation was more around kind of creating opportunities.
That's amazing. So you literally have created a business, which is something that like you lacked as an individual yourself when you were at uni.
Yeah. It's quite interesting because, so when the business first started, it was all kind of just based on like peer-to-peer, so student-to-student selling. Whereas more recently, we branched into partnering with fashion brands who have excess stock, and they're working with us to circulate their stock to students through our marketplace.
That's really cool.
And that's kind of the main kind of growth strategy that we're introducing from September.
Okay. Did you ever think that this would be your path? Like when you started Hazaar, did you ever think that it would did you intend for this to be a full-time business, or was it like a passion project that essentially did just take over?
So when we first started, I definitely didn't imagine it being a business. Like just started it originally on Facebook, and it was just like more of a passion. And then it kind of, I suppose when it transformed into a business, that was when we had about 20,000 students on different Facebook pages. And I got really excited about, oh my gosh, this could actually be a business. I did always believe in it. But I think you never really, like, especially when you're young and you don't have loads of experience, like it's not like you get this idea and then all of a sudden you imagine it being this like massive thing. I think you just kind of like ride the waves with that.
So did you have a job at the time and then you sort of had to give up the full-time work to do Hazaar?
No, so started Hazaar in my second year when I was at uni.
Right.
And then when I graduated uni, my university gave me like a startup scholarship.
Oh, thing. That's really cool.
Which was like a bit of funding so that I could run the business for 6 months. And then the way that Hazaar's kind of been funded ever since is through, like, we have some like private investors. So when I first started the business and kind of had the idea, one of my friends, well, it's quite hard to know who to kind of go to for help.
Of course, yeah.
And I knew that one of my friends' dads had his own business and stuff. So I spoke to him about it and he was like, well, you're going to need an app, you're going to need like a marketing budget and everything. And I'd kind of estimated that I'd need probably about £20,000 to get the business off the ground, which obviously £20,000 when you're a student, like
non-existent.
Yeah, non-existent. And he kind of said to me, well, if you can't raise £20,000 investment, then it's probably like a crap idea and you should just give up with it anyway.
Okay.
So that was quite a good bit of motivation for me of like, okay, well, this is what I kind of need to do.
Yeah.
So I kind of put a pitch deck together. Went out to all these people on LinkedIn and managed to get £20,000 of funding.
From one person or a variety?
So from one person.
Really?
Yeah. So someone that I'd done work experience for, like his company, like when I was like 14. And I nearly didn't send it to him and he just said, and then he ended up replying and being like, yeah, pitch it to me and my wife next Tuesday and we'll kind of go from there.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that was like, that kind of was the first thing that kind of got it going.
When you were younger, did you always see yourself being entrepreneurial? Did you see yourself having a business, or did you see yourself having a normal job?
Yeah, just having a normal job, I'd say. Like I went traveling just before uni, and at that point I really wanted to be like an investment banker. Don't even know why. And my mum sent me away with a book that was called like The Female Investment Banker. And I remember reading it and just being like, absolutely not.
Really?
Like I remember like there was a page where the girl was saying that she used to like schedule emails to go to her boss at like 3 a.m. because
to make it look like she was working late.
And that was like desirable.
Yeah.
And I just thought like what I love about I think that just felt like a very like toxic environment. And with the startup, it's like everyone works hard, but it's like, well, you all care about each other, you're working towards the same mission, and it's not really like that. So I think, I definitely realised that wasn't the way I wanted to go. But I think I only realised that I wanted to work within a startup business when I was in my second year at uni. I didn't anticipate it really being my business until the kind of opportunity came around.
What qualities do you think a person needs in order to run a business, or even let's say start a business? What would you say?
So I'd say like when I first started Hazaar, I was completely naive about the whole process. So obviously you have a good idea like on paper and it's like, it's connecting students, they can buy and sell from each other. Great idea.
Yeah.
But actually the execution is obviously the hardest part.
Yeah, and I also feel like that's the part not many people talk about.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to like expand on that, because I know the students watching, they probably are at that point where they've got the good idea and they want to execute it. So how did you do that?
Yeah. So I suppose, so it's from getting the idea of Hazaar'S. So literally coming up with it, set it up on Facebook originally, and it was all just like, if you've got stuff you want to sell, buy and sell it from other students. Put posters all around the university with like a QR code, and did a big post in our like big university Facebook page, and then that literally took off overnight. I remember sitting in the library and like everyone talking about this new like page. At the time we'd called it Bpop. So the idea was it was like the University of Birmingham's Depop.
That's amazing.
Obviously, well, yeah.
Was it just you and another friend, or was there a group of you?
Yeah, so at the time, because that was kind of an extension of our plastic-free society thing. So there was a couple of us doing that. So that was kind of, so I suppose the kind of advice there would be to build the idea, like test the idea in a free way.
On
so
social
Facebook,
media.
And then we then expanded that so from just Birmingham, we then launched loads of different pages. So we had about 20,000 students on different pages. So that's quite a good like proof of concept within a free platform.
Yeah.
I'd then say kind of to then take it to the next level. Like for me, I definitely needed some like advisors to help me with what to do. So I spent a while kind of reaching out to different people on LinkedIn and people that I maybe knew within my network or that the university could connect me to.
Yeah.
Just telling them about my idea, telling them about the different options that I had. Like, should I just make a website? Should I make an actual mobile app? Should I make a web app, or just kind of a mix of the two? Like kind of speaking to different people about your different options.
Yeah.
Because that's really helpful.
And where would you find, I know you say LinkedIn, but like if we were literally being so specific, what were you like typing in? Like how did you find these people?
Yeah, so I remember I used to type in like tech entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But I would say that where possible, it's good to find people who you know have already like made it. So like, for example, it would probably be if I was doing it now, I'd probably look for companies that I admire and then
that do something similar, or not necessarily something similar, but the same sort of like startup.
So for example, if it's going to be like a fashion based startup, maybe like looking for a business like a fashion focused company that you love, and like reaching out to the founder so that you know that the steps that they followed are going to be similar to what you need to do. But I would say that approach that I took probably wasn't the best in some ways, because it meant that there's quite a lot of people who, like, when you've got a good idea, they'll try and like, I don't know, steal it's not the right word, but like try and piggyback on it. Yeah. So I did end up entertaining quite a few conversations with people who kind of maybe their business was failing. So then they were like, oh, this is one I can get like my hands on. So like, oh, like, let me help you and I'll get this in return. Whereas like the best advisors that I have are people who are really successful themselves. They don't need to like profit from helping, and you can just really trust them. Yeah. So
they just do it because they like the idea, don't they?
Yeah.
It isn't because like you say their business is failing.
Yeah, exactly.
So after you got the investment, what were the next steps?
Yeah, so that was so we got the investment, and that was based on us having £10,000 to spend on marketing and like team, and then £10,000 to build the app. And that was based on a quote that I'd been given from this guy. But then once I got the investment, that then fell through, as in the guy ended up pulling out, doing it for that price. So you can imagine like that was obviously super, super stressful. So I just got this money, and then I realised that £10,000 was like very, very cheap for an app. So then it was really hard to find anyone else that could do it for that rate. Okay. But managed to find someone. To build the app. Built the app, and then kind of launched it originally at all the universities across the UK. As you can probably imagine, like with a peer-to-peer marketplace, it's a bit of a chicken and egg problem. Like you need a lot of buyers, you need a lot of sellers, so you need like lots of stock. And and launching it everywhere just wasn't a thing basically. Because like if you think about like Depop and Vinted, like think about the amount of people that they have on there and like the amount of volume. So it just like that route just wasn't really going to work. So we had to kind of really think about. And we realised quickly that business model that we'd launched with wasn't going to work either, because we were just taking like a 10% commission from sales. Right. So then kind of was thinking, okay, how can we make this business work? And that's, I suppose, when my days with the Plastic Free Society came in handy, because I'd worked quite closely with my university sustainability team. So I was like, how can we shape our offering to actually kind of support universities and then charge unis for our product?
Yeah.
So then we kind of did that, and that's kind of how the relationship with the Fashion Retail Academy came about. And we then signed up 10 universities in that first year.
Wow.
And the whole premise to them was like helping them create a circular economy on campus, and like kind of powering the peer-to-peer marketplace, but for like universities.
And then the next steps are now with brands, which is really exciting.
Because so working with the universities in that capacity, like what we've kind of realised is that so our mission's obviously about we want to serve like all the students in the UK, and at the moment we're only 5% of UK students can actually use Hazaar, and that's because of our university relationships.
Because you haven't got enough, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so Hazaar's only open to a university if they are like subscribed to us, and actually we've got all these brands who want to work with us. We've got like all these students who want access to our platform, but we're kind of saying no because their university's not signed up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of making us look to how we can change our model, which is why, we're adding in the addition of brands, and from September, all students in the UK will have access to Hazaar.
Wow.
But like what they'll have access to will just be brands selling directly to students.
Okay.
And then the kind of more peer-to-peer aspect will still be like university specific, but more just like a feature within the app, if you know what I mean.
I see what you mean. It's crazy how like when you started this, you had no idea like that. Like the business model has, like you say, it's developed. Yeah. Would you say like that is the case for like most businesses? Like in order to just be successful, you've just got to start, because once you start, you see the gaps and you see what isn't going to work and what you thought was going to work when you were younger. No longer is going to work.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you've just got to start, like back to your question that you said about like the kind of qualities of like an entrepreneur or whatever. I think like resilience, and just like sometimes you're getting taken in directions and you're like, what the hell is going on? Like, I don't know how to navigate this. But it's just like, and you get knockbacks all the time, but just like determination that you are going to find a way to make it work. I think for something that I found, maybe like as a young founder, maybe if I had more experience, I'd have figured out some of these learnings quicker. So for example, I'm not very good with all of our finances and like all the business planning like within an Excel spreadsheet. And I think perhaps if I had more experience in that, I'd have realised sooner that the peer-to-peer model within the universe, with just students buying and selling to each other, I'd have probably realised that wasn't going to work sooner. But I think that's where it's like you just need to start as early as possible.
Yeah, because you'll never know. Like you'll never learn. Everything that you have like now achieved has been because you've just had to get on with it, isn't it?
Yeah.
What other advice would you give to students who are wanting to build their own business and they're graduating, so they're younger, so like you say they're going to be a young founder like yourself? What would you say?
I'd say just become obsessed with learning.
Okay.
So just try and like if you want to kind of go into a certain industry, try and like network with as many people as you possibly can within that industry. Just ask as many questions as you possibly can. And also, I wouldn't be afraid of telling people your idea and what you're trying to do. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that says like, don't tell people too much about what you're doing. It could get copied. But I think you just have to have the confidence in yourself that, sorry, just not the mic. You just have to have the confidence in yourself that you're the right person to be doing this business. And even if someone does copy, you're going to do it better. And the actual benefits that you'll get from speaking to people, getting advice, even like sometimes you learn a lot from explaining to someone like where you're thinking of going. And then while you're explaining it, you think, oh, actually, like that, like you learn sometimes from just saying
it out loud.
So I think just network as much as possible, and don't be afraid to ask people for help as well, especially when you're young. A lot of people do really want to kind of support you, so definitely do that.
Did you face any sort of like conflict or people sort of judging when you started Hazaar? Like people didn't really think that you could do it, they sort of thought it was a silly idea, sort of like how did you overcome that?
I think something that I did really struggle with in the early days was that because Hazaar as a kind of idea on paper just made sense, so I feel like I felt a lot of pressure that everyone expected it just to kind of take off. It was like, oh yeah, Depop for students. Like everyone was like, that's so good. Like, oh my gosh. And then obviously the execution, and I was struggling with that. The tech didn't work. The marketing hadn't taken off how I'd planned. I had like a 1-person team. Like just, I was learning that it wasn't going to be as simple as what I thought, but I didn't know the rest. Like I didn't know what I needed to do to change it because I was still learning. So I feel like I felt like a bit like awkward sometimes. Like, oh, how's it all going? Like, oh, it's actually going really badly. Like, obviously, but yeah, that's kind of all part of the journey.
Yeah, and have you enjoyed that? Like, has it taught you lessons? You've learned a lot about yourself. Would you say you've learned a lot about yourself and you as a person maybe since doing this business?
Oh my God, yeah, definitely. I feel like I've started enjoying the business a lot more this year, because up until last September, there was only one other full-time person in our team. Whereas now there's about 6 of us in the full-time team.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, what is the sort of team like? When did you start taking on employees, things like that?
Yeah, so that's something that I found quite difficult. I think the team is like the best part of the job and the worst part of the job. Yeah. Because like the team, since I've got the right people in the team now, it's literally the best thing ever. Like the team is absolutely amazing and bring me so much confidence that we can kind of achieve what we're trying to achieve. But equally, I think something that makes you a good founder is having emotional intelligence and being quite empathetic, but that can also be quite difficult when things aren't going well with the team, because if there's someone in the team that's not quite right, for example, you're very aware of that probably before other people are, and it's like having to deal with those situations.
Yeah, so it's nothing to do with business really, that's just people skills, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd say, I'd literally say that emotional intelligence and building relationships, from my perspective, has been one of the most important things.
And is that a skill that you think you can only learn if you just throw yourself in there and you're in these situations?
Yeah. And I also think just being honest as well. Like, so just like completely, like from day dot, like this isn't my idea, I'm not sure how I'm going to deliver it, do you have any advice? And then kind of leading with that, like, and like even with the team like that I've got now, like I would say that I learned from them just as much as I probably think I learned from them more than they learned from me. Yeah. I
think I've seen Stephen Bartlett say before, like, hire people better than you.
Yeah. Like the team that Hazaar'S is literally amazing now.
So how many team members is there, and sort of what roles do people have?
Yeah, so we're going through, because we've made this we're making this business transition at the moment from obviously the university only model to the brand. So we're kind of having a bit of a reshuffle. But we've got like a brand manager, events and activations manager. We're hiring someone to lead on our marketing at the moment. And then I've got someone who, Sam, who helps me with partnerships. And then we've got 2 people on the tech side as well.
Wow, okay.
And then we work with quite a lot of freelancers as well. I'd say actually that's something that I've always done. It's like, obviously you can't always afford all these full-time hires. So actually if you can employ people on a freelance basis, people who probably have full-time jobs and they love what you're doing and it's more of a passion project for them, it means you can access really good talent, but in an affordable way.
Yeah, definitely. Do you see your team expanding anytime soon? I know you're hiring for marketing, but you're gonna need a whole team?
Exactly. Yeah. So for this new model, obviously I was opening up to kind of all students in the UK, all the brands that we're going to be launched with in September. We're going to be having to do another investment raise in January, which will kind of support us accelerating that growth and also the team.
Okay, so define what investment raise is, because I hear a lot, maybe it's just me that wants to ask this question, but I can imagine people listening to this now saying that they've always heard people say like, oh, I managed to raise X amount for the business. Like, what does that actually mean? What is raising the money? Like, where do you get that from?
Yeah. So I suppose raising investment, it can be in different forms. So it can be from individuals, or you can get it from kind of companies.
Okay.
And essentially your individuals or a company are giving you money for a stake in your business with a view to earning a return in the future. So it's all about, and the reason you would kind of take on investment is to accelerate your growth quicker than what you can with the money that you've got coming in.
Because they can give you a chunk there and then.
Yeah. So essentially in the context of what we're doing at the moment, the way that our business works is at the moment we get like subscriptions from the universities, but in order to really kind of to maximize this opportunity that we've got with all the brands. So we're going to have 20 brands launching with us next September.
Wow.
Like really, really like big brands as well. So obviously we need like certain tech requirements. We need like a big marketing budget, and our business doesn't have enough money itself currently to support what we need to do to deliver on that. So essentially we need to get investment to bridge that gap to being able to deliver this to then earn like in the future. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. So then is it basically just a pitch to these investors then?
Yeah, so essentially our team at the moment is working on like our kind of 5-year plan. We're working on all the finances, the plan to get there. So like the marketing plan, how we're going to onboard these brands, what our tech needs to look like.
Yeah.
And then once I've got all the finances in place, so in terms of our income, what all the costs are going to be, and then the plan, the team we need to deliver it, we then put all of that into a presentation. And then I'll then go out and like have meetings with people like who potentially might be interested in putting some money into the business.
How many people do you reckon you will like get in line to like pitch to? How many are you going to get?
So usually it usually has to be quite a lot of different people.
Yeah.
I think it depends on your business, but a lot of companies, so for example, like Grace Beverley from Tala, I think she had like a VC investment, so like a venture capital investment. So that's where they'll often, the venture capital will put in like a big chunk of the investment. Whereas for Hazaar, we've always had more individuals investing. So because we have more individuals, it does often mean more meetings because people, it's like lots of individuals putting in smaller chunks.
Yeah.
But I think for this raise, I'm hoping that we can get like maybe less investors that are putting in a bit more.
Yeah. Before you started your business, did you know any of this?
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would.
And that's not a bad thing.
No.
You've learned that all along the way.
Yeah. Exactly. And like, it's so learnable. And like, I'd also say that investment's not right for a lot of businesses. Like, I also think, I remember when I first started the business that everyone would say to me, oh, you're going to do an investment raise, And I think a lot of founders, for them, success is how much they've raised. Whereas actually that's not a thing, because like you could raise £1 million, but then you could then go bust like a year and a half later. And actually what you want to figure out doing is like getting your business to a business model that can support itself. And I think investment can kind of skew that a little bit because you have all this money, so you're not forced to figure out what's actually going to work financially. Probably particularly with like product-based businesses, like I know like Amy from Odd Muse, for example, how she the way that she financed her business was by doing like pre-orders.
Right.
So I think that's a really, really smart way of like,
she knows
like
roughly
investment.
How much.
Yeah, but then that's like people pay before your customers are paying for your product before it's actually kind of
in their hands.
So then that's like investment in probably a more smarter way, because you don't have to give up any of the business.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is there any last pieces of advice you would give to our students watching now, do you think? Just anything off the top of your head. It doesn't have to be about business. It could just be you as a person. You know, where do you find like your inspiration? Is there any like business influencers or people that you look up to? So I would say just like take any opportunity that comes your way. So like, for example, if you think about my journey with Hazaar, obviously started going to these random startup society talks with no clue what that was going to do. And actually some of the people that I met, some of those startup founders actually ended up investing in Hazaar as well. Really?
So which I would have never have thought about. With the Plastic Free Society, that gave me exposure to university sustainability teams, which then formed a big part of our business moving forward. So I think just take every opportunity that you get, and don't necessarily think like if it's not obvious in that moment of like what's in it for me, why should I do this? Just do it anyway, because it's just like
you'll never know unless you actually do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'd also just focus on building meaningful relationships with people, which kind of ties into the first point as well.
And any key maybe like books or podcasts or people that you like?
So in the early days, I got a lot of my inspiration from Stephen Bartlett's podcast. So maybe like scroll back to like
I didn't even know he did them without guests. I'm gonna go scroll back now. When was this? Like,
so that was like when I was in my maybe even in my first year at uni, so like maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow, okay.
And he used to just do them like into his diary, and it would be like a diary entry. So that's why for me I found it like because it was like him talking through his feelings and stuff, and I was like, I literally resonate with him so much. So I'd maybe suggest doing that. In terms of books, I remember reading a few years ago a book called like The Entrepreneurial Revolution. Can't remember who it's by, but I remember that being really, really good. Another book called Lean In as well, which is all about like being a female and like kind of leaning into conversations and building confidence. Yeah.
That's amazing. I think this episode's been really, really good. I think you've given us loads of information. Would you say if any of our students have got a business idea and they just sort of think, oh, like I would want to do that, but like, I don't know if it would work. Like, I don't know. Yeah. You would just say go for it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'd just say go for it.
Yeah. Like, what is the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah, especially when you're young, I think just go for it. Like, there's absolutely nothing to lose. Somewhere like the Fashion Retail Academy as well, like there's no better place to be launching a business. It seems like there's so much support here. A lot of kind of students as well that could probably be testing out your product.
Definitely, good point.
Like even just get like a little, like a table at the kind of front of the university, like sampling your product, get people to try it on, get some feedback. It's kind of the perfect place to be doing that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think we'll leave it there. That is so good. Thank you so much for coming all this way today. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye.